Make sure to smash the like button and let's jump immediately into the video. It's patch day, patch 11.7 notes, and we're going to talk about either changes to Jinx or changes that might affect Jinx on this patch, because in this particular patch there were no direct Jinx changes. I was going to say changes. Jinx changes, it's a new word, we just made it up together on this patch. But there were some changes to some other AD carries that might affect Jinx. Furthermore, later in this video, we're going to talk about Glorious Jinx, because the model has been released for that, in case you don't know that Glorious Jinx is going to be a thing in Wild Rift. So, with that being said, first and foremost, let's get the patch out the way. When we come to some changes that might affect Jinx, we'll start with Alistar. We'll just briefly mention that the Q base damage has been decreased later. The E empowered basic attack bonus damage has also been increased. It looks like it's a nerf, it looks like for the late game, mainly because it's decreased later, meaning outer lane phase, unless you're dealing with the Alistar who's maxing this first. That probably won't be super effective against Jinx, or even if you're playing with an Alistar as Jinx, for that matter. In the early game, the base damage is still going to be there, but it's going to decrease as the laning phase goes on, even by 5 damage by rank 2, mind you. But it's really going to be felt more probably later when it's a whole 20 down. Meanwhile, Trample, the empowered basic attack, is going down rather immediately, so that one probably might be felt more immediately if you're playing against an Alistar. Maybe that's a little bit better, so it doesn't feel like you're getting ran down. But if you're playing with an Alistar as Jinx for whatever reason, because that's not what, even for hard engaged supports, people usually favor like Thresh or Braum or something, but you know, do you? That is something to note. The damage will be a little bit later. And so for the overall combo, there's some damage that's missing all the way across the board. Those people that get away with like a sliver of health, that might be why, if you tend to be playing with an Alistar. So, as we keep progressing down, on Ashe, the R cooldown is being decreased later. So Ashe is one of the more utility-based AD carries along with Sivir and stuff, correct? And those AD carries, they have a meta usually. When there's like utility and stuff, and from the AD carry role, it's all about helping set up plays. Sometimes every role is about setting up plays, and it's just disgusting chain CC, and you see it in pro play especially when they execute it brilliantly. Ashe is one of those champions, especially with her R. Her R is kind of to set up, you know, cross-map plays and picks and stuff like that. So that being said, the cooldown is going down, not at, you know, laning phase rank, which is rank 6, but once you give even to rank 11, if the laning phase is lasting a bit long, it will be down 10 seconds and then 20 seconds in the late game. So just keep that in mind. You know, as a Jinx, you're very mobile. You got to be looking for skill shots all the time anyways. This is one that will be up a little bit more often, but not until the late game. And if you're fed, because you are Jinx and you are a late game champion, you'll destroy Ashe instead. So there you go. Speaking of hard engaged supports, we do have Braum. The E cooldown is being decreased. The R maximum knockup duration is increased later. A lot of late game focused stuff, it seems, for some reason. So again, if you're playing with a hard engaged support like a Thresh or a Braum, here we go with Braum, late game the combo is going to be kind of disgusting. In the laning phase specifically, not much will necessarily change, but the E unbreakable will be up a bit more often in the laning phase, so Braum can protect you a bit more. Hold 2 seconds at every rank. So if you are playing with a Braum, you might be able to pop that shield up a bit more often. You want to try and coordinate with the Braum, of course, and make sure if you take some sort of fight, he does have the shield up to begin with, so it's not completely on cooldown, and you're like, Braum, why aren't you doing your job? And Braum's like, I do my job. If you would have waited for the cooldown, and you have that weird awkward exchange where you're like, huh, that does make sense after all. And if you're fighting against a Braum, like you're trying to destroy like a Caitlyn in lane who has a Braum, just know that shield will be up, and, you know, 2 seconds earlier at every rank. So moving on, we do have Kaiser. Kaiser's R cooldown has been increased early, meaning that Killer Instinct. So if you're laning against a Kaiser Leona kind of hits you with something. Kaiser can't come flying in necessarily at rank 1 or level 6 because there's a 20-second extra cooldown. So after the first time she kills you in lane with the whole entire combo, the second time won't come until another 20 extra seconds. So that's something to keep in mind in the laning phase when you're going against the Kaiser Jinx matchup. I don't know how people feel about the Kaiser Jinx matchup right now, but that is something to, you know, be aware of. Is that Kaiser will be a little bit weaker, quote unquote, and be able to launch that ability later on. As we keep scrolling down, we have Rel, the better Leona. The E stun duration has been decreased, actually. So if you're someone that really hates like the hard engage stuff too, by the way, they are hitting that with Rel at least, where the stun duration is going from 0.75 seconds to only a half a second. So not almost from almost a full second to only nearly a half a second. That might be very useful. Thresh, yes. The W base shield has been decreased later, the 60, 100, 140, 180, and 220 to 60, 90, 120, 150, and 180. So with that being said, a lot of these, again, I feel are repetitive. They're late game changes. By the time it's late game, hopefully if you've done your job or things have gone well, you're probably fed, you're probably, how do I say this because of YouTube, you're probably destroying all of your enemies, and you're probably not necessarily worrying about certain shield values being changed by a mere like 20 or 10, you know, in any case, right? You're probably as a Jinx doing very well. Hopefully, if it's gone late and you didn't get absolutely bodied. That being said, it can be kind of nice, though, to just keep that in mind that you'll be doing a little bit extra damage to these champions that you're supposed to be, especially in the late game anyways, but also just to keep in mind, you're not going to be necessarily as safe that, 10, life could be a difference between surviving like an ignite or not late game or something. Because if you are fed, the enemy team's gunning for you. So just keep that in mind as well. Tristana, the base attack damage has been decreased. Tristana's been popping up in pro play. I don't know if any of you care about pro play, but if you have, she has been popping up actually alongside Jinx and stuff like that too. Tristana a bit more though, because she does have the rocket jump and she can knock people back, and she has flash, usually a lot more mobility, or at least pro play safeness. They even mentioned in the patch notes the levels of pro play. That's part of why they're doing this, and the attack damage is going from 61 to 59. Haha, it's only 2 AD, etc, etc. We heard all the time every year when people do that. It's just like, here's the thing about base damages, it's last hitting. I sound like a broken record when this happens, but it's a last hitting nerf, right? Like, you get used to last hitting at a certain sliver, and when that 2 is changed, especially in the early game, sometimes that can throw people off. As you get your items, it evens out again, but at the early game, that might be the difference between Tristana farming up a storm and like not, if they're not like a Tristana main, you know what I mean? It separates the Tristana mains from the people that are playing Tristana because she's flavor of the month. So when we look at Varus, for example, base attack damage growth has been decreased. So the AD growth, meaning the AD growth he gets per level, is going from, wait, they said it's been increased, right? It's a buff, so going from 3 to 3.4. I don't really see Varus anywhere, and I know Varus versus Jinx, how people favor that because of the Q and the zap, back and forth. But we might see Varus a bit more often because now his AD growth per level is going to be nice, which is going to cover his last hitting problems, potentially. And then as we scroll down, honorable mention to Yorick. We won't get into his changes, but like August, the creator for Jinx's kit, has been playing a lot of Yorick, and it looks like after a couple weeks of streaming Yorick games now, they know exactly how to kind of buff Yorick, because I guess he's been out the meta. But I thought that was kind of just an interesting one to throw in there. We're going to keep scrolling down. Lord Dominic's Regard, if you're buying that one, you're not buying, health, the Grievous Wounds one, Mortal Reminder. The cost of it is going up by 100 gold, and the attack damage is going down by 5. So in your full build, just keep that in mind. As we continue on, that seems to be all for most of the changes in the patch. There's some bug fixes. There's the upcoming skins, so you got Lux, Rumble, Nasus, Nunu and Willup, Blitz and Crank, Lulu, Samira, so you might see some more Samira in your games because people might just want to play that skin, and Lulu. You might see Lulu supporting you a bit more often because of that too. So there you go, Lulu Prestige Edition. Now I did mention we talk about Glorious Jinx a bit more, so we're going to hop over to that in just a second. This might be risky because I'm on Twitter, and Twitter, hopefully nothing TOS shows up. But like we talked about Glorious Jinx in a video actually on Sunday, but now the actual model is out, and you can see like what it actually looks like in game. And then if you don't have Wild Rift, it's basically the Glorious skins are the equivalent of the Victorious skins. So basically Victorious Jinx in Wild Rift's terms and stuff like that. Here's the splash art again if you haven't seen that already. I'm not saying go watch the Sunday video. You can probably, most likely if you're watching this on the subreddit, you already know. The subreddit was already talking about this. But yeah, that's what this is, and Jinx is getting basically the Victorious skin, which is kind of interesting because like, I mean, it does look pretty neat, to be completely honest, but at the same time, if you're having a hard time keeping up grinding League right now, because like if you're me, for example, college, then also having to try and grind a gold in freaking Wild Rift is one of those moments where like, hot dang, I don't know about that one, Chief. I might, because it's an exclusive skin for a limited time, because that's how it works. It's just like Victorious skins. I'm just like, well, that's an interesting one. We'll see how that one goes. Skin spotlights, of course, if you haven't, you don't know who Skin Spotlights is, they do a lot of, skin spotlights when skins come out. It's pretty self-explanatory. They have a whole YouTube channel. Go check that out. They make some great videos, and they also have turnarounds of what Glorious Jinx will look like in Wild Rift, riding the fish bones and everything like that too. Actually, that's pretty cool. It's a harken back to the ggGetJinxed music video from 2013 when she debuted, if you are actually a newer Jinx player and you don't know about the ggGetJinxed music video. But that being said, yeah, this is what's coming, and this is what it looks like. This is some turnarounds. We're mainly up here because we saw the splash art a bit already. So the people on Twitter that have some turnarounds and stuff like that of how neat it looks actually. It does look pretty cool actually. I do kind of like it. I just don't think I'm going to be able to get there and maintain League and maintain college, So I'm counting on you guys. I'm counting on you guys to go out there that have the time to do it. Go and be glorious and snatch up Glorious Jinx. But that's going to be it for me from this video. So thank you so much for watching this video. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until this time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.